All right. Coming in clear live, and we are live everywhere on social media from Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, coming to you tonight from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And my guy over here in Asheville. Asheville?
No, we're in Raleigh, North Carolina, baby.
No.
It's all right. We're in the triangle. We're in the triangle, buddy.
We're out there. But yeah, coming to you, and we have so much to talk about. I am Trey Wynn, your host, Chase Green here, and we are going to be discussing for the next hour all things covering from Super Bowl, the national anthem, Rihanna, the actual game, quarterback. Hey, is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback now? Great topic we're going to be discussing. So all that to say, again, Chat 10 Sports, and let's kick this thing off, baby. What's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports, where we're talking all things Tennessee sports and everything in between. If you're watching us from Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, we do invite you to chat with us live, so make sure and keep that thing live. And if you're listening to us, be sure to follow, subscribe, rate the show, and if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell for notifications. But folks, with that said, without further ado, let's jump into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports. Chase Green, you are looking good, my man. How are you feeling after last night's game with the Vols yet again taking down the #1 Alabama Crimson Tide?
It feels really, really good, man. I had a feeling that was actually going to happen. I felt good about it because you just understand trends, and you're like, this Tennessee's a good team. It's not the best overall team I've ever seen, but Tennessee is too good of a team to lose 3 in a row, 2 buzzer beaters, and then not bounce back at home. And I was thinking, oh man, Alabama's in for a tough night. And damn, did they have one.
Yeah.
Tennessee's defense really stepped up. I was very worried, though, without Phillips and without Triple J. I was like, who the hell's going to guard Brandon Miller? And Jemai Mashack turned it on and caused that guy to have his worst night possible. And that's the best player in college basketball. And Tennessee didn't lock him up, but made him have a tough night. Felt good.
Yeah, I mean, well, for our audience, I was telling Chase before, I mean, you'd be proud of me. I watched the whole game. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I was telling my girlfriend was with me. We were sitting and just enjoying. But, I mean, I care about basketball when it matters. And for all those that for some reason follow this era of my social media of the 2K, 22, I think it was, or whatever 2K series game it was, I got addicted probably during the pandemic. But,
yeah,
I mean, basketball is intriguing when it matters, and obviously number 10 Tennessee at TBA against #1 Alabama, that's going to draw a lot of eyes. And in case you're watching with us, give us your thoughts in the chat. If it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, I know we're coming from channels, outlets as well, so make sure and check them out. We are powered by channel. I'll throw this up so you can make sure and find them right above Chase's head there. Channel is talking all things Vols, doing trivia on their outlets as well. So we're going to be here for the next, again, 30, 45 minutes, talking Titans, Super Bowl, NFL talk, because apparently Tannehill is a sought-after piece now, and we're talking some serious draft capital. But we're talking about the Vols right now, coming back after just 3 back-to-back losses.
Yep.
Obviously against Missouri, and then at home – I thought, Chase, just taking away my 2 cents. At one point, it was the question in my mind, is Alabama losing this game or is Tennessee winning this game? And that was a poll I put up on Twitter last night. We retweeted it from everywhere that we are. But I came away really thinking this Vols defense is really that good. And, I mean, they were creating turnovers. And, yes, there was some flat-out sloppy play. But the rebounding, I thought, was all there for Tennessee. And, I mean – early on, it kind of took them a little bit to get going, but you know how it is. I mean, some in those late games, it could get a little bit, as far as point spreads, it could be a little bit further, it could be a little bit close. But what was your overall takeaway coming out of the losses and taking down Bama?
This was a game of role players. Jonas Adu had a monster night last night, like double, 12 points, 10 rebounds. That huge block shot off the inbound, that was just a thing of beauty. He contested so many shots, even though he didn't block them. Like, you guys know, like, if you ever played pickup, there's that tall guy that just scares the shit out of you because you're like, he's going to block this. And so he caused you to miss a layup, and you're not going to get that on the stat sheet. But Adu played awesome last night. Mashack, again, guarded Brandon Miller. I'm telling you, this guy is a top 5 NBA pick. probably, in my opinion, a top 3 guy outside of Scoot and the man from France himself. I really feel like Brandon can score from everywhere, and they caused him a lot of problems. The guy can shoot, he can take people off the dribble. He wasn't getting anything easy. He got one open shot. I mean, the guy's insane. I mean, he doesn't get a lot of them, but I don't know if you guys heard, he is making 70% of shots that are uncontested. That's redonkulous for a man that's 6'8" and moves like he does. It's incredible how good he is, but how good Tennessee did it as a job on him. Quinterly had a terrible game. He's another one of those guys that's like in college basketball, you feel like he's been there for like 35 years. He's a COVID kid, like those guys that played there for 6 years. Dude, Zakiya Ziegler caused him all kinds of havoc. There was a streak there that I tweeted about that Ziegler, you're talking a 5'7", 160-pound guy.
Yeah.
Takes Quinterly, causes a turnover. He goes down, hits a 3. Ziegler hits the 3 after causing the turnover. Comes back, causes another turnover, gets the assist on the other end after a fast break. And I was like, that was a 5-point swing just like that, because Ziegler locked up Quinterly, who's a guard that's been in the SEC forever. And Quinterly is good, but he had a terrible night last night. The Vols did a great job on 2 of their best guys. I mean, they've got some other guys that can really play, but you're talking about the number 6 overall team on the offensive side in Alabama, one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country, and Tennessee caused them problems. It wasn't Tennessee's best night shooting, but damn, they played great.
Yeah. I don't know. Right now we're kind of in the middle of the stretch with the SEC play, obviously, but Kentucky coming up, Texas A&M. I mean, before we know it, I know we're going to get into March Madness, and we'll talk leading up to that. And in case you're watching with us for the first time, we are going to be focusing probably more on the Vols since, I mean, I don't know, Chase, XFL starts this weekend, so we might have some football to talk about. Maybe.
Did you see our boy Vic Beasley?
I did see he's out there. Josh Gordon. I mean,
Titans famous boys.
Yeah, the legend that was. But no, we're going to be having some other, content creators and other voices that can be able to speak to some Vols basketball as well as baseball. So stick around for that. But Chase, let me ask you this. I don't want to get too far ahead of the season, if you will. But I mean, where are you expecting with March Madness? Because last night, again, number 1 team, obviously home crowd, TBA was hot, and it was, I mean, feisty, and it's been all day long that Bama fans have been tweeting out every excuse you can think of. But what does this really mean, a win like that for Tennessee with a championship and national championship implications?
For teams like Tennessee, I really, really hate the narrative nowadays that it doesn't matter till March. And like, the ranking system is really weird because Tennessee was behind Texas after they just beat the shit out of them. And then you're like, oh, okay, then you bounce back. And some of the rankings are a little off. Don't get me wrong. I agree with that. Like week to week in the AP poll, like some of it doesn't really matter to me, but they do matter when it comes to the quadrant stuff. It does matter momentum wise. You really have to make it look good, especially late in the season. And the Vols are going into the second half of their SEC stint, which is much harder. They have, I mean, Missouri is a pretty decent team. They're not great, but you lose to them on a buzzer beater. You lost to 2 of the worst teams, unfortunately, in Florida and Vandy. And then you lost to Kentucky, who's not a great team either. So you need to bounce back for them on Saturday. But getting a win against Alabama, getting the wins against Texas, that means a lot, man. You're talking Tennessee looked like they were a 4 or 5 seed last week, sliding down with 2 bad losses. And then this week, if you get one against number 1 Bama, and then you still won at Rupp Arena against Kentucky, this stuff matters. Like the regular season does matter. It's not as much like the NBA. Like it March means more. Obviously, it's way more fun. But this is a time like you got to embrace this stuff. Like Tennessee is a good basketball team. They frustrate the hell out of you. They've got to figure some stuff out offensively, which I could go into that for hours. They just don't have an identity truly, which is actually weirdly their identity because they need to do multiple things to create offense. They're not good enough. Like Zakiya Ziegler is the only person in that arena feels like sometimes can get his own shot. And he's 5'7", so it's tougher to finish the rim. Like he can get past some guys, but once you get amongst the trees, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But it does mean a lot. And I know, like you're more on that line of it's once it gets to March, it's so much fun. But right now, it does mean a lot. If you're gonna following this along, like it's tough to get to an Elite Eight or a Final Four if you're stuck in a 5 seed. And, I've seen some of these. Like I think they had Tennessee is a 3 or a 4 in Greensboro versus like a number 6 seed Duke team in Greensboro, and you're like, I don't want to get in those spots. So you want to be the higher seed so you don't get screwed in those weird spots, like Duke or Carolina and Greensboro is a 10 seed or whatever. And you're like, that coming. So yeah, it means something later down the road.
Yeah, and it's like, late season in the playoffs for the NFL. If you're getting hot at the right time and that momentum shift, even like you've had those 2 kind of last second buzzer beater losses.
Yeah.
A lot of teams could really take that and it mentally just drain them and their games off. Because you notice a difference when Ziegler was out in that Missouri game in that last 2 minutes when it's like, oh, okay, you knew Barnes was upset. But I mean, the pressure, and it seems like he really commands the floor. And even, Vescovi was, playing that spot as far as point guard, even defensively at times and shifting and things. But I mean, when Ziegler was out there, and for the record, he is 5'9", just for his own own defense. But yeah, I mean, from Long Island, New York, he's a dude that I just watching him again in a limited capacity. I'm not going to be out here to any Vols fan trying to make you think I'm something I'm not. But as someone who is that person that's going to be looking, even if it's for the sake of betting, of March Madness, but it's always fun when the Vols are going. But yeah, I've heard some rumbles of frustrations with Rick Barnes. I don't know if I want to get your thoughts on it, because just again, like Michael Scott, explain to me like I'm 5. What are the pros and the cons with Rick Barnes as far as, I mean, whatever part of the season, but obviously I know when he was first hired, the reputation is like when it matters, it's not there for him. But what's the complaint that you see, and is it valid, or what's your take on it?
With Rick here now, it's weird because Vols fans, as we know, are a very tough crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You are looking at a stint in time with Rick Barnes being here where you've had a ton of success in the regular season. You've had multiple NBA players. You've had some 5 stars. You had a lot of good, but you haven't gotten past the 16 yet. So now everybody's like, okay, I've seen this song and dance. Like he's gotten me to this before. We've seen a version of good team, high seed. But can they do anything? So that's why a lot of Vols fans think it's irrelevant in the regular season. But if you keep putting yourself in good spots, things will happen.
Yeah.
Rick had some great talent at Texas and only got to a Final Four. It happens, man. It's really hard to win in college basketball. He is a good coach. Craig just pointed it out. Rick Barnes is a good coach. The issue is that they're paying him top 5 money. He needs better tournament performance to silence people. And that is tough. Yeah. And I get that. I get that part of it. Rick, to me, there are a few games where I don't always know if he gets them up enough against bad teams like Vandy in Florida. You got to go. And it was a good night. It was a desperate Florida team on a weird Wednesday night. And I get all that notion. I can make excuses for him, but I'm also like, you got to go in and beat a bad Florida team. You got to beat Vandy. Like Vandy, weirdly enough, has a 5-1 record against Tennessee when they're ranked or something crazy like that. And you're like, dadgummit, like those sons of bitches, those little brothers, you just know those guys. But still, you can't lose to, and they were like 11-12 at the time. You can't go in and lose those games. You just got to do that. So for Rick, it's just a product of his own success, weirdly enough, in the regular season. The people are like, prove it to me later on. I know what this looks like. You'll be fun. But I don't know. It's does that give it a little bit of a stand of why?
Well, I mean, I'm going to throw up Gavin's comment on Facebook here saying, is Rick Barnes the Jimbo Fisher of college basketball by coaching Kevin Durant, like Jimbo Fisher was with Jameis Winston? Obviously, that Florida State championship run and that whole stint, they've both kind of fallen off since they've had that relationship together. But Rick Barnes, I mean, hasn't fallen off like Jimbo Fisher. But what do you think about that comment, Chase?
Kevin, if you ever compare Jameis Winston to Kevin Durant, I will find you.
I mean, college football wise, Jameis was. I mean,
he was really good.
Yeah,
but you're talking about a pantheon great NBA top 15 guy. You're talking about the greatest scoring forward of all time. Do not give me Jameis Winston, Kevin Durant comparisons in any form and facet ever.
Well,
that's what I'm saying, Gavin.
Since we're on the topic, and he's recently moved out west and going to Arizona or Phoenix. Is it Phoenix or is it Arizona now?
Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking for some reason, or maybe I was looking at the NFL history for the Cardinals, but going to Phoenix, what do you think about him teaming up with Chris Paul, Devin Booker? I mean, not to completely transition off college basketball, but since we're on that bunny trail.
Buddy,
are they going to do it?
That team is going to be incredible because not only is Durant the greatest, like I said, like literally with the greatest scoring forward, or the most unguardable if you want to go super technical.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like the most team first guy, like team first star we've had in a long time. Because like if you get LeBron, if you get Luka, you got to play their way. Like Durant's like, you need me to spot up for a little while, like to play off Booker, Paul. Yeah, go ahead. You need me to go ISO? I can do that. You need me to like run a pick and roll just so we can get Ayton in a mismatch? I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be incredible. And they're balling right now. They're having a really good run, and he's not even playing.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of myself. Like honestly, they should be second or third favorite. I mean, I really like Boston. I really like Giannis, and if Chris Middleton's healthy, dude, Milwaukee's incredible. But if everything hits right, I don't know how you guard Phoenix, man. I don't know how you do that. Like Durant and Booker are they're so good.
I'm excited to see it because I mean, like again, I'm that confessed NBA fan of the finals and maybe some of the later matchups, but I'm completely biased towards the 1990s and what the NBA was back when. But I mean, if it's the whole idea of super teams like that, whereas you have to have 3 out of 5 guys are just absolute powerhouse players, and it's like I mean, back when you had think of Patrick Ewing all by himself up in New York in the 90s, like just
yeah.
It's just one of those things for me, even when you have those super teams, because now Kevin Durant's been a part of what, like
two or I guess if you wanted to call what they were at one point for like 16 games, they were a super team in Brooklyn, so 3.
Yeah.
But I mean, that could also happen again, like these, if you get on the wagon of Kevin Durant going to a new team and hopping on the super team, it's just not working.
Yeah. Well,
now there's no Kyrie to like go psycho, but
that's a whole different show there, that topic. But
yeah, that's a weird one.
Speaking of trades and getting moved around, and we'll talk about the Super Bowl here in a second, but this week's been a big conversation for the Titans, with obviously a lot of quarterback conversations around Ryan Tannehill's apparently pretty popular commodity per some reports around the NFL, New York Jets market. Some outlets more credible than others, but saying that there is some interest from the Jets, and don't sleep on the interest there, because a lot of people are saying this, Chase, that the Jets are basically aligning themselves to make the hardest push possible at Aaron Rodgers. I don't really understand this massive intrigue when all this drama, like on cue every year. It's like the Devontae Adams trade happened because of it. He's basically pushing talent away to some way. Not to give the guy crap about family dynamics, but you know how that is. It's just one of those things where it's like, really, you don't talk to anybody in your family. Going on some darkness retreat to try and determine what he wants to do in his future. It's getting a little weird. And I'm at the point where it's like, are these players going through these final stretches of their careers? And again, like Lawan's out here talking like, if I'm making my decision, I want to be here. I would love to do that, but I have to do what's best for me. And I'm not that guy to change my mind. But does it make sense for the Jets to go hard after Rodgers, or kind of read the room and saying, well, hey, the Saints are out there pushing for Derek Carr. Jimmy G could end up somewhere that, we could push for him. The Bucks are out there. Mm-hmm. Or do they just stay content saying, hey, Tannehill's been solid. He could be the missing piece. We have a solid defense, a nice running back, and some talent around him. But should it be Rodgers? Should it be Tannehill? And what do you think as far as the rumors of the Jets being intrigued by Tannehill?
I So with Tannehill, I was thinking about this today because I was listen to Locked On Titans, listen to a couple of their NFL pods, and just kind of getting what everybody's feeling like. Do you feel like Tannehill might be some weird like ploy? Like he girl, it's like, I could take, if you're the Jets, you're like, I could take Becky to the prom. Jessica's Aaron. And she's like, I could take Becky, Tannehill.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like a little smoke and mirrors action.
I don't think it's so much that, because I feel like the Titans basically got him out of Miami, away from Adam Gase, and he, pretty quickly, relatively, took over the starting job.
Yeah.
And it's like, either you got Mike White, Zach Wilson, which neither one of those guys are really the answer. I don't think they want Tannehill to be the long-term guy, but friendly deal. Obviously, proven veteran guy that can come in, has the ability in the right scheme, I think. I've been all over Twitter today talking about Ryan Tannehill and his fit here and there, and Derrick Henry, and how the Titans have been one-dimensional with Derrick Henry in some ways in the last couple of years. But all that to say, it's really hard, and it's interesting who you ask this question to and how they answer, but it's hard to judge Tannehill with all the context of John Robinson's personnel issues and Todd Downing and offensive line issues and injuries and the whole thing. We've beaten it to a pulp at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to pieces and situations, the Jets do make sense for a guy like Tannehill, even for the sense of like Robert Saleh, great up and comer out of the Shanahan system, right? The zone running, they got the pieces there for him. Very similar to what John Robinson had in place, or getting to be in place, when they got him for the 4th round pick, or they swapped him, or whatever it was, or all that to say, it could be intriguing, especially if they were to take his current deal, extend him, do whatever, give him more money to really make the cherry on top kind of thing. But a couple weeks ago, people were scoffing at the idea of the Titans getting a 2nd round pick. But here we are now. There's rumors of there being a 2nd round pick and a 4th round pick for this year, which would be, yes, absolutely.
Which would be right on par. That's what's crazy to me, is like people don't understand the market is this. I'll give credit where credit's due. I was listening to Locked On Titans today, and there was a listener that gave him a really good comparison. Sam Darnold was traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 2nd round, a 4th round, and a 6th round. So yeah, Sam was younger and had like a maybe upside that you're like, well, they played with the Jets, maybe. But Tannehill's proven commodity.
Yeah.
Tannehill's pretty good. Like, he's older, I get it, but he's not. He's in that middle pack. He's as good as Derek Carr, and it may be different looking. He's as good as, whoever else you want to put in that. He's better than Wentz. He's better than any of those guys. Like, if you were going to look at it in a perspective of comparison trade market, he's going to get it. They're going to get a 2nd. Like, this is a quarterback that can take you to the playoffs, especially if you're the Jets, because you have so much young talent. So much young talent. You have the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, to mention, on those rookie contracts. Mm-hmm. You have Breece Hall, who was one of the best running backs in the NFL before he got hurt. You have a ton of guys like on early contracts, and they're young, or there's some Quentin Williams, like those guys you can work some financials out and make those things happen. Like, you can do some really good stuff. He knows who Corey Davis is if Corey sticks around. They have some money where they can go get a wide receiver or two. You could make some moves because, do you feel like, Buffalo's going to be the best in that division, but if there's no Tua, you could sneak into the 2nd spot in that division, right?
Oh yeah, and I think the Bills are a great team. I really do. I don't think the Jets are that far off in that division because of how competitive it is. And the Jets last year, like the Titans, had a stretch of 6 games that they lost, and
Mhm.
fell apart towards the end. But that's, I mean, also in the midst of a Zach Wilson situation that just has not been going well, right? But I mean, all that to say, I think this situation only happens, and Gavin Jones brings a good comment up saying, my question to both of you is, if we trade Tannehill, what's our next move, which we'll discuss. But if you're watching with us, if you're new with us, check us out. It's Chat 10 Sports, and make sure wherever you're watching, or if you're listening after on your preferred streaming platform, make sure and follow, keep up with us. We'll be here every week, Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and having all things discussion around Tennessee sports and probably some other stuff in this offseason too. We'll get creative with it. But
Mhm.
obviously, it seems like every week, Chase, we're trying to find things. It's like, well, things just blow up, and all of a sudden we're having the talk of the town. But
Yeah.
I like Gavin's question here, because I think the only way this happens is if the Titans have some type of intent or plan to move up and get a guy like CJ Stroud. That's my preferred pick. But I think, I mean, and this is the beauty of the Titans spot right now. And again, I want you to answer Gavin's question, Chase, so don't let me get too far off the trail here. Um, but the beauty of the Titans position right now is, like, what you have in Tannehill.
Mhm.
He is a familiar voice, a leader that guys look up to. If he wasn't hurt, and if he wasn't sacked every 3 plays, it seemed like, because that left side and the whole offensive line was falling apart, all the context that we know, people are so quick to throw him out. And it's like, the guy has a cheap deal right now. So if we have to stick with him, it's not a bad thing. But if they move up, that's the only way it happens. And if they do move up, Chase, let me ask you this on top of Gavin's question. Who are they going for your preferred pick?
If it's one, I think it's Bryce. I just don't think CJ will be there at 3. I'm kind of I'm not opposed to either one. I think I have a slight, like I mentioned last week, that Bryce is small, but he's still one of the best I've ever like, dude, the guy's he's just got every piece of skill you want in a quarterback: mentality, composure, like everything about it.
And he's
Yeah,
surrounded by a ton of talent at Alabama, which he's not going to have wherever
but
he
not
ends
so
up.
much this year. That was the big thing. This year proved to me a lot, because those wide receivers were nowhere near as good as like Tennessee's or Ole Miss's. Or, I mean, his wide receiver core was below average in the SEC this year. Like, he was phenomenal with some subpar guys, and those guys might grow into something you can try to point to me. But this year they were not that great.
Mm-hmm.
This year they didn't have that stuff. They didn't have OJ Howard. No, none of the Julio's
Yeah,
or
the receiver
any of
group.
those. No Devontae Smith, like none of those guys. This year proved a lot to me, and he was hobbled. And man, in that Tennessee game, a game that he lost, yes, he was. Dude, Tennessee was getting after him, and he was making throws on the freaking money. He had to throw a lot of guys open this year.
I mean, but that's still coming with, I mean, consecutive years of, like, what, top 5 recruiting classes and all the above. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying they've got talent. I mean, and you know how I feel about picking a guy in the top 5 where everything around him is, I mean, aged or brand new, where you're not going to get, you don't know what you're going to get out of the talent around them. So they are literally banking on the name of this guy, which, I mean,
That's how I feel about CJ, though. Like, if you're going to do that same thing, I mean, the talent, CJ had by far the most talent in college football.
sure, we have Marvin Harrison Jr. and I forget the other.
Yeah, and Nagbe, whatever
Yeah,
his name is.
yeah. I
And
can
then
get change the name out, but not that one.
yeah, and then Smith. They had they had 3 of the top 15.
Craig
Wide
coming in here on Facebook saying, "I'm gonna let you finish," but CJ Stroud had the best receiving core in America. It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. But here's the thing, guys. And Gavin's over here saying, Stroud, I've had your back since day one, but man, Stroud's a pipe dream. We've had to give up way too much to get Bryce or Stroud at best. We can get AR, Anthony Richardson. No way. And we don't want him. Exactly. We don't want him. However, you don't have to force this situation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand the idea of a pipe dream, but if there is a guy that is out there that's worth the pick and worth the moves and worth the wager, in my opinion, CJ Stroud's the only guy in this last year that made Georgia look human. And that game convinced me. There was other games that he showed good, great, and he had some struggles at times, like all people do. But what I feel like the Titans are gearing up right now, and we'll talk about Craig's comment there on Facebook in a second about Hendon Hooker. But if they're going to make that move, I think you could move up to a 4, 5, maybe 7 or 8 spot for some of these teams that could be looking at a defensive player that might be there at 11, at 11, excuse me. But I don't think the Titans have to force this to happen, but you just don't want them to make a move or have something in place with the Jets for Tannehill to move, and then it falls through, and then they're all of a sudden they're scrambling last minute on the draft, on the night of the draft to figure out what they want to do. But obviously a lot of comments coming in here, Chase. I don't know if you have anything specifically I've said that you want to respond to or take it wherever you want to go, but what are your thoughts so far?
So I want to talk about Gavin here, talking about we could give up too much to get Stroud if we want to move up, wait a year. Williams and May are going to be spectacular. There could be a couple other guys that are also we see it every year. They can move up too. I would give May one more year without 2 really, really good wide receivers. I just want to be honest with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
As a Carolina fan, they played a pretty bad schedule, not a tough schedule, very easy ACC schedule. May's really good. I really think he's a really, really good college quarterback, and I want to see 1 year without Josh Downs and Green. Williams is the real deal. Williams is, he'd be the number 1 quarterback taken this year, and Kuiper and them say Drake May actually would. But I will say the timeline, if you were to trade up, would be this year. If you really like somebody, you trade up this year because you're leveraging your future if you do it. So you have to love somebody. And I'm talking about that deep love. That real love. You better really love them because you're going to give up this year's first, which is 11. It's not terrible. This year's first, next year's first. If you trade Tannehill, you'll probably get a second, a fourth, and maybe a sixth. You'll have to use at least one of those. Probably maybe your fourth and your second. I hope it's worth it.
I mean, the fact that and again, hypothetically speaking, in this alternate reality, which speaking of Ant-Man coming out this weekend, I've heard some mixed reviews, but
I've heard the same thing.
Yeah, but in this alternate reality where the Titans are trading Tannehill away to the Jets for a second, fourth, maybe a third and fifth, if we're being a little bit conservative on that. I mean, if you're recouping some of that, I think the idea of moving or swapping first-round picks this year and really only wagering the next 2 years of first-round picks. Now, here's the thing. Again, there's the potential of a ton of things happening for them to try and make more, to get more draft capital, to free up more cap space. But all that to say, I agree with what you're saying. If they have a guy they love and where they're at right now, I don't think it's going to be crazy. Straight up honest. If either one of these quarterbacks, if we all think, Will Levis shouldn't be in the top 10 or whatever, he's been projected and mocked at number 1. Anthony Richardson's been projected at number 1. Bryce, CJ, all of them are. Jalen Carter, William, the whole 9. We have no idea how this thing's going to go. And for all we know, someone could release some video of Bryce Young with some scuba mask on, and he's ripping a hole through it. Who has a clue? But I'm not going to be shocked if the Titans just sit there patiently waiting. And you're watching these quarterbacks going off, and that pick is feeling good because you can just sit right there. And again, some mocks are showing Paris Johnson Jr. and a lot of mocks yesterday were. So they're in a winning spot in my mind, right? You don't have to get away from Henry. You don't have to do all that, as much as I would love that. But all that to say, Tannehill is a slandered, basically, factor of this team that's kept them relevant through the last 4 years, 5 years. And that's why I think Mike Vrabel has so much of affection for him. So sorry to be long-winded there. I just think you have a great hand going to the table, and you could really come away with a lot of money and feel pretty damn good afterwards.
You're going to feel good either way, right? I think you are. If you're you're the Titans front office, like that's what they're there for. That's why you hope Rand's the right guy. Evaluation's been awesome for that guy. He's off the charts. Because you also have to look at 2024. He's not there to look at just 2023. Like, yeah, you're going to have the cap hit of Tannehill. Like, it's what, 17 million or something like that. Something like that. What you take for the dead money?
18, I think.
18, yeah. And so 2023 is all right. Like, you're going to cut some guys, you're going to get rid of, but even after like a draft class and a couple free agents that you'd get this year, 2024, you're going to have, and that's also depending on how much the cap could go up. It could go like 20 million more. You could have like 50 to 85 million dollars in cap money going into 2024 with, if you do everything right. This is like if the Titans do everything just pretty damn right. You get a left tackle free agency, you probably get a wide receiver in free agency. And you sign your draft class, you do all the things, and you keep Jeffrey. I mean, dude, if you get the right guy, and if it's CJ or if it's Bryce, and you have that going into their second year with even more money and some established offensive line or whatever, dude,
they have the
you're
opportunity.
looking really bright.
But it seems very black and white in how to get there successfully. I think Titans fans and I think people in general just have this naysayers outlook of like, oh, they're going to screw this up, and they're trying to apply the experience that we had with John Robinson to the Rand Carthon era. But it's in the reality, we have no clue what's going to happen.
This guy may not be great. We don't even know. Like, we like the idea, but he may not even be good.
We could be on that night they introduced Jeremy Pruitt saying, this could be our dude.
Football guy.
We have no idea the onslaught that's coming. So all that to say, I'm optimistic for sure because I trust Mike Vrabel. I trust Amy Adams Strunk, and I do think Rand Carthon is what he has been advertised. And obviously, I swear, man, there continue to be these people out here just begging for Aaron Rodgers or saying the Titans need to go after Derek Carr. And I don't get it. I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about them because at the reality of it, the Chiefs gave up how many sacks in that Super Bowl chase? Zippity doo-dah.
Against one of the best defensive lines ever.
And that's what we were talking about last week. That's what we were saying. Hassan Haskins, the whole crew coming through, right? I mean, we were expecting Mahomes to be on his butt. And even whenever he did get hit and his ankle was re-aggravated or whatnot, that team is incredible. But I think Mahomes can do what he does because the offensive line is in such good shape. And it's one of those things. I think fundamental football, you win in the trenches. Obviously, defensively, the Titans are going to keep Jeffrey Simmons and move all of hell and everything to try to get in the way. But all that to say, I mean, I'm looking at the projections and things like that, and offensive line has to be priority number one, I think, over quarterback.
Yeah.
Even people say wide receiver, I say no, but just to get on that topic for a second, I think the Titans, even the idea of trading back from 11 and trying to get some more picks, and I mean, they're in a great spot to do it. You just don't want to get pigeonholed moving back. Some comments here. Craig Story on Facebook. Oop, let me get his up here. The sod father fixed it to keep the Eagles D-line slipping. Gavin saying, to touch on your comment earlier, Trey, about Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones is the best left tackle in the draft. I completely disagree because I've heard and I've seen Peter Skoronski. Paris Johnson is just a dog, So all that to say, Craig Story coming in here, in all seriousness, you have to have an O-line to win. So, again, like you said, I feel like the Titans have a pretty clear path to get where we want to be in the next 2 years. It's just a matter of what they want to do this year, because you could lean into a rebuild. You could lean in and try and just salvage the last part of the Henry and Tannehill offense that we've known it to be. They've implied changes, so I think we've covered some Titans there. But any other topics that you want to cover that you've seen this week?
I want to touch on one Aaron Rodgers thing, which I find fascinating personally. Maybe nobody cares about this, but I also follow a lot of the group that he is aligned with in Austin. Those guys are great podcasters. They've got a great. It's all based on the Onnit Group and Aubrey Marcus and Aaron Alexander. Like these guys are great. If you want to follow for personal health and just kind of a different holistic view, those guys are great. They also do some weird shit too.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron is just like, as much as he wants to present himself as this like, go getter and like new leader and tough, he's, I'm doing something different. I'm doing something for me. He just wants to like fit into the group, and that's okay. That's okay. But don't give me like, I'm just trying out here to change. No, you want to do what your buddies are doing. You're just doing what your buddies are doing. And I don't know, like he is gone. That's a different kind of life that they live down there.
Yeah.
And I bet he's having a ton of fun because it's beautiful women everywhere. You look up Onnit Gym and it's just like smoke shows everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fun group. It's a bunch of beautiful, cool, rich people. Awesome. Fit into that group. But don't give me like this whole enlightenment crap and then try to sell me on it, because when you follow that group, it's just a bunch of beautiful people being around a bunch of beautiful people and having fun. And yeah, they do some different stuff, but you just want to be a follower.
Mm-hmm.
So have fun in New York, man. Do your thing, but I don't want you here. Not one bit.
Well, you know how I am. Like I'm very much into mental health and self-love and all that kind of thing. And I know like people have talked about hallucinogens and healing and things like that. And it's like, Aaron, like the ayahuasca stuff, I've looked into it. Obviously, I have no intent to go into South America to find some guru in the Amazon somewhere and start tripping balls and throwing up and stuff like that. But all that to say, I mean, yeah, it's not the average bear, but on the other side of the coin, I don't know, man. Aaron Rodgers just seems like just in a football dynamic, nothing even personal in that way. Because some of that stuff makes you scratch your head, but it's like I'm more convinced when I think of Aaron Rodgers that he is just looking to be the center of conversation, because it's like this weekly Pat McAfee interview where I'm like, bro, until you make your decision, don't do any publicity. Go to your darkness retreat and come out and give us the answer, because it's like, hey, by the way, I'll be back next week with Pat and AJ to talk about whatever.
Yeah.
But all that to say, it's like, oh, he's building a home in Nashville. Great. I mean, we have to think about our future versus just falling for the cutest girl at the dance, like you were saying. It's Aaron Rodgers. For sure, he is the best quarterback option available. 100%. But you don't have to wager everything. And even if you were to talk about Lamar Jackson, it's still like it doesn't make sense for the Titans, especially with where they're at right now and what they're coming out of.
Yeah, we just don't. We're not even in the Lamar conversation because we ain't got the financials for that. Like, there's no. I mean, I know the NFL, like the cap's fake sometimes, but that's one I don't know if we could fake that cap. That's a lot of money. I mean, unless you're Atlanta or you're Baltimore, it's really tough.
Well, even people have said if they were to franchise tag him in Baltimore, that you could give up multiple picks, and then on top of that, you're going to be shelling out the potential. I don't know what percentage of what he's wanting will be guaranteed, but obviously Deshaun Watson's contract is going to say, hey, we're going to give a ton of money. And you see these Mahomes deals too, like, and I'm sure Jalen's, he's talking north of $40 to $45 million annual with signing bonus and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it would be an absolute wager of like the pink slip of the house and your 5 kids and wife inside being like, we just did what? So not my first choice at all. So
how bad did Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson just screw every team in the market?
Well, Arizona, both of those franchises with, obviously Cleveland and even the Texans, poverty franchises, man. The 3 of those, because the Cardinals were even right now, like, just it's been weird. And even Kyler, it's hard to sit here and think, like, I'm going to interview with this team, knowing how dysfunctional, egotistical, like the kid was made to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
All those, stereotypes and all that kind of stuff. He fits it to a T. He's a drama queen. He wants to do what he wants to do, and he wants to go play ball and just make everyone's jaw drop. It's the NFL though, and when you have grown men who are saying my livelihood's on the line as well, I have no desire in my life, in my mind, to be attached with someone who's going to make that much stuff. Because when the locker room starts to go and people are taking shots, that's whenever it's toxicity, the city of toxicity.
Yeah, that's a tough spot because I heard a lot of coaches were like, on the head coaching opportunity because they need to be stuck with Kyler for 3 or 4 more years.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, you put yourself in a bad spot. Like, I'm even like not in the off-field stuff, but the football aspect only. I'm trying to give Deshaun Watson the benefit of the doubt because he did miss those 11 games. I'm like, give him an off season. You know, he was a superstar. Maybe. But Kyler, man, you know what you're kind of getting. Like, he's a super athlete. He can do a lot of things. The guy's got an incredible arm. He's so fast, but unless it's perfectly schemed up for him, he just ain't it, man. He just ain't it.
Well, even with the talent he had, it's like, woof. Gavin asked the question, would the Cardinals even be a team if it wasn't for Larry Fitzgerald? Yeah, I mean, they had a pretty good team with those Super Bowl, Kurt Warner. And I mean, obviously the only reason I remember that Super Bowl was because of the James Harrison, pick six or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I mean, we could talk about all types of dysfunction. I'm intrigued, not to go completely into this one, but for Sean Payton and the Broncos to see what they can do.
Yep.
I know some people out here that are Broncos fans, and it sounds like he's about to nip a lot of stuff in the bud. But all that to say, speaking of nipping it in the bud, I thought the Super Bowl in general, if I was to give it a grade, and you'd be thinking of this one too, Chase, if I was to give the Super Bowl as a whole, from national anthem to the game, commercials, I mean, we're talking about the halftime performance, the whole 9 yards. I would give it a B minus. If I'm being honest. And the reason I think it goes down to that point for me is because I thought the commercials were some of the most disappointing in the last 5 years. And I was sitting here after several of these things saying, why would someone have paid what they were asking for that time slot for that type of advert? Because I'm like, this doesn't want me to make that. There was one or two that made me want to buy that product because I understood, and it was clear as day when Miles Teller had a Bud Light and he was dancing at the house with his girlfriend and it was fun, laid back. It's like, dude, we should grab some Bud Light sometime and go, just have a good time. But if you were to give the Super Bowl as a whole a grade, what would you give it, Chase?
I'm going to go a little bit higher because I thought the game was really good. Mm-hmm. It's great when you have the two best teams and you have the two quarterbacks like giving you the wow factor. Like, dude, Hurts was awesome. Matt Patrick was like a warrior, being really good. I loved it. Like, I love seeing. Weirdly enough, I mean, it's not what I picked, but I don't care. It didn't really matter. It was great to see one of the best defensive lines I've ever seen just get absolutely stymied by this O-line who had to play the greatest game they ever had to play, and they freaking did it. Shout out to Trey Smith. Shout out six round, baby. Suck it, everybody out the front of them. Commercials did sunk, man. Outside of the few trailers, I'm intrigued, by a lot of the comic book movies. I mean, we're nerds here. It's all good. Miles Teller was good, but that there wasn't like you mentioned, there were some bad ones.
Well, there was the Tubi one that it was the Tubi commercial where it had Greg Olson and the other commentator basically.
Oh, that was good.
They were trying to change the app, and my girlfriend Erin said to me, "Are you done with the game? What are you doing? Like, why are you changing the game?" So, but I want to get to the music, and as far as the national anthem and Rihanna.
See, I brought it up. Well, the halftime was tough for me, but I'm going to say B+ overall.
Why was halftime hard for you? Because I kept sitting there thinking, and it's the same thing for me. Like some of the acts that you get, it's like I've heard a lot of these songs, but with Rihanna, a lot of those songs, man, it's like banger after banger after banger, and then to think she is 7, 8 months pregnant, doing all this stuff. Dancing around, the whole thing. It's incredible. But I don't understand the hate for it or the disappointment of it. So what did you think about the halftime show?
I thought it was fine. Like, I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of it. I mean, that was my thing. It's like, I don't know. Like, Rihanna just like didn't get me fired up. Like, it's just not somebody personally, I just like that. I mean, she's fine. I'll listen to a few songs. It's not no hatred. I wasn't fired up about it. And I just like tuned in. It was kind of like in the background, you're just talking, but it didn't, what I saw, like, I like, the hanging, like it's like, it's been so good, like, or so elaborate, maybe a better word, these last like 10 years, and it just keeps going up. I'm like, God, man, if you're not like running through fire or flipping over 10 mirrors, like, it's like, the pregnant lady can't do all this,
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. Like, I think, and this is a byproduct of only my own thoughts, is just like the one at the weekend. I was like, man, I got a headache watching that. I was like, I don't want to go through that again. So I'm just going to like let this one go. And, Rihanna's like super talented. Rihanna's fine. Don't get me wrong, but I just wasn't like super intrigued personally. But, my girlfriend loved it.
Yeah.
So
hey,
it was good. I mean, like I said, like, it's a B+.
Goodell's over there saying, hey.
Yeah.
We know why we're picking Rihanna. No.
With the Super Bowl, you have a whole new audience.
Oh,
So
no
good for
doubt.
him.
Yeah. Got the comments rolling in, so we'll get to those in just a second. But I agree. I was watching it from the perspective as a dad of two girls, saying, one, could my kids watch this? But we love Rihanna because several movies that she's been in and had songs and things like that. But I thought it was awesome. Some grades here, B- only because of the national anthem, but it doesn't touch Whitney. We'll talk about that in just a second. Steven Snyder saying John Travolta commercial was funny to see him bald doing the Grease song. Ben Affleck Duncan commercial was kind of funny. Craig's story coming in, Super Bowl overall was a B. Without commercials, it was an A. Man, the commercials did have a good shot. Craig said stop being an old man. To Gavin,
$7 million a commercial, dog.
That's frustrating, just for all that good stuff. But I do want to talk about Chris Stapleton because that's one of the best moments, I think, in I mean, Super Bowl national anthem rankings for a male performance, by far and away the best ever. Because Whitney, I do agree with Gavin. Like, Whitney's hits you in a way of like, I just watched The Patriot, and then I watched Miracle, and then I went to go eat a hamburger and eat American Pie. It's like all the above. On the 4th of July, as Toby Keith and his drunk horses come over and things like that. But all that stuff, it just makes you feel that. But Chris Stapleton just shows up and does whatever he wants to do, as Chris Stapleton does, and just kills it. And it's one of those things I would like to see them continue just chasing the best talent, because I do think Rihanna's still out there as one of the best, but I do want to see a really incredible halftime show and not just a grab at like the shock value like you're seeing in some other Sam Smith stuff and all that kind of thing. I was worried about that with just the shock value of that recently too. So I don't know if we have any more Super Bowl talk, but we are getting close to our hour. But
no, it was good. I thought it was a pretty good overall Super Bowl. Like, the one they had, was it last year? They had like Eminem and 50 and like all the 50 and all these people. Like, it was just like, man, it was a lot. The weekend was just a headache. But this one was it's fine. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
The commercials really did bring it down. They sucked overall.
Yeah.
And I just think it's so expensive. It's like, what are we getting out of it? Like, in the marketing advertising world, you start to realize that you can get more off paying. You can pay $3 million to Joe Rogan and quadruple, quintuple your ad revenue. Like, it makes no sense if you're a smart marketer. Some of these teams, like some of these people, just have so much money they can throw it out there. Like, if you're Bud Light, if you're Budweiser, you're any sort of alcoholic beverage, you should always, and you have an honor to do as Budweiser to do a Super Bowl commercial and make it pretty good. It is your duty in America. But a lot of these teams are just like, you're pricing me out of it. Like, what am I going to do with this?
Well,
So
I think you're right in the sense of a lot of social media influencers now. I mean, this is busting with the boys just had Jeffree Star on, which is this big controversial topic of
who is
obvious.
Jeffree Star? I really.
So Jeffree Star is a massive makeup YouTuber. Previously, like when MySpace first started, I think he was one of the he was saying he's one of the first influencers on that platform. We got into makeup, just started making a killing. I do encourage everyone to watch that because it's not at all what you're thinking it was. I mean, I messaged Taylor Lewan just saying, "Hey, dude, loved it. I thought you did a great job. I thought the situation was unique. I thought it was a ratings grab, but you killed it." But all that to say, I mean, I was taken aback because he made the example as an influencer that a lot of these bigger companies are willing to go through the YouTubes and the social medias and find people. Because I mean, my thing is, I know they're trying to sell me on these big stages like the Super Bowl. So it's like I'm almost harder to capture in that way versus me swiping through Instagram and I see something come up and I buy that shirt because of something or whatever it is, you know. So
Yeah.
they're targeting people that way, but yeah, the publicity was there for the Jeffree Star conversation, and I mean, I'm not going to sit here and get in some big debate about it about if it's worth talking about or not. It's to each his own, but it's worth a shot for the sake of the story. Because I think again, like Bussin' with the Boys has predominantly, these NFL athletes, and one of my favorites is the Darren Waller episode. Just an incredible story, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone's got those, and they don't all look the same. And I think that's pretty freaking awesome for Bussin' to have done that.
Yeah.
Again, having looked at it and thinking this is BS because it's a ratings grab, but Lawan I thought killed it as an interviewer in that episode, so no problem going on record with that one. So all that to say, though, the ads for the Super Bowl, massive disappointment, and use that money for other better things for sure.
Yeah.
But any
Definitely.
last thoughts, Chase? I know Vols baseball could be gearing up. I know Braves are going to be starting spring training soon. We've been talking to our friend Leslie Mines about getting him involved and kind of previewing some Braves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try and see if we can get old Andy Sims. I know he's been busy in other aspects of his life, but maybe just get his thoughts on this year's Braves team and what's the situation. Because as we do, it's like we transition from one sport and then maybe the next day, but and seasons change and we're looking at basketball and we're looking at baseball. So here we go.
Yeah. And real quick? So Tennessee baseball, really good weekend. Starts out tomorrow night, 8:00. Friday night, 8 p.m. versus Arizona. You got the best pitching in the country on your weekend, guys. Truly phenomenal. You got a lot to replace on the defense and the batting side, but they're going to be really good. Your odds-on favorite via DraftKings and second and FanDuel to win the College World Series. So this Vols team's really good. To touch on Gavin's point, he asked me if NC's going to make the tournament. Probably not. They might sneak in. They're going to have to make a really, really good run in the ACC tournament. I did want to point out I got to fulfill my dream.
Yeah, tell us about
I got to sit courtside at Carolina. I got a call on Friday night, or not Friday night, Monday night, about 5:30 from a buddy of mine. And he's got a good corporate connection. And he said, "Hey man, had some people fall through. Do you want to come to the Carolina game?" And I was like, "Oh, he's sweet. I know he's got like pretty good seats. Not, like they're good. Like I was just there, but I was not expecting this." I got a call, and so I head out to Carolina, and it's just from Raleigh to Chapel Hill. It's like usually like 40 minutes. It took me an hour and 45 minutes. It took forever. It was brutal traffic. I didn't get there. I didn't get parked till like 7:20, I guess, and the game started at 7. I'm literally running across campus in some slacks and a polo and some Converse shoes, dude. So my ankle ain't feeling great. But I had a good stride going. Your boy was running like an 8:30 pace, just good solid stride down to the court here. So I get there and he goes, "We got courtside, baby." And I was like, What? Get down there, and I got to live out my dream. They lost to Miami, of course, but like Larry Brown was sitting like 2 seats behind me. And then, I'm like right there next to Jim Larinaga, and like the guys are just like breathing on me. It's like me and Lily, I had the camera guy sitting on my feet. And I was like, this is unbelievable.
Put your pinky up a little bit when you're sitting that close, huh?
Dude, bucket list items just don't happen. And I almost did the old man thing where like Monday I was literally at the gym. I just got there, crushed some pre-workout. Probably took way too much. But I crushed some pre-workout. And so the gym I go to now, like the music's so loud that it's like not even worth like putting your earphones in. So like I just kind of leave my phone. It's like nice. It's been like a detox. But I looked down and like, and Hannah was calling me. She's like, then she sent me a message. She's like, hey, like look at Jeremiah's number here. Look at Jeremiah's call. And I get that call back. And I was like, just got to the gym. And he's like, dude, come on, come to the Carolina game. I was like, it's top 25 matchup, might as well.
Got to go for it.
But I almost said no. And I was like, God, how old man would have been of me? But yeah, that was.
If you don't got it, you don't got it. But when you got to get it, you got to go.
You got to go, baby. So always take advantage of an opportunity.
Well, speaking of opportunity, I had an opportunity this last weekend to trim my mustache. Making a horrible mistake. I've seen some comments here from Gavin. By the way, you look good, man, but bring the stash back. Craig says, Trey, with the facial hair, do whatever your girl likes. Wise comments there. We'll see what we can do and see if we can make it come back a little bit faster. But the peach fuzz is coming through. But hey, do us a favor in case, again, if you're new to us, Chat 10 Sports, we're here every single week talking all things Tennessee sports and everything in between. We're based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, talking Titans, Vols, Braves, Predators, and we'll be cranking it up with the Braves, Vols basketball, NCAA basketball in general, having conversations with some people to bringing in some good interviews, Trey Wallace, Michael from Spotrack, and several others to be kind of picking the brain and educating our brains as these off-season stretches can get interesting. So we'll put our wings out like that. Chase, the Substack. Tell the folks about the Substack and
follow. Yeah, Chat 10 Substack. It is going to be a new version, kind of our blog. Trey's been doing a great job, like some Titans articles and stuff. I'll have some more stuff coming out here this weekend for the Vols, and then just some different things going forward. We got some fun ideas. I kind of wrote a bunch of this stuff down this afternoon. Substack's been blowing up, really. Like, these guys, like, it has gone from taking away articles on a website to kind of just putting it in your own email. Super easy. You just do the whole typical sign up stuff, but something we can still post on. So like, follow, all that good stuff. It's all free. We want to take care of you that way. Yep. Just hop on those bad boys and we'll be writing about anything and everything. It's going to be a great place to just pump out some extra content, do some video stuff, and do some writing. It's going to be great.
And if you got topics as well, I know that obviously with us watching live, throw those out if you do have those requests. But hit us up on social media. We might be doing a mailbag since it's off season and hook up with the channel guys and doing that. But do us a favor again, subscribe wherever you're watching. We're here weekly, having a lot of fun. Appreciate the live interaction. But check us next time. We hope that you have a great rest of your week, and we'll check back next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love you, Debbie Chase. Check you.
Love you, buddy. Love you guys.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chat 10 Sports, where we're talking all things Tennessee sports and everything